Hey guys, this is part 3 of a 4-part series about my trip to Spain, Costa del Sol. Part 1 was about my trip to France, where I was there for I think 7 to 8 days, and then how I went to Portugal, specifically the Azores, where my family's from. If you're ever wondering about this flag in the background, that's the islands of the Azores, the 9 islands that are there. Did a video about that. And then this video is specifically about Spain and Costa del Sol. And then my last video, part 4, will be about Doha in Qatar. So all the videos, if you're looking for part 1 through 4, it will be in the description. You can check those out. Specifically about France is if you're thinking about France or why I'm investing there and why I have my focus on France. I do a deep dive a little bit on Disneyland Paris and the surrounding areas. One thing I decided to do about 2 years ago is every time I travel, I take one of my children with me. So, and then we go to a place where there's Disney. So far we've only done this in Disneyland Paris and Magic Kingdom in Orlando. I haven't done this with the other destinations yet. I'm going to do that over in California, Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and then in the future in 2030 in Abu Dhabi. So my goal is to go to all the parks with my kids, and then more recently is narrow in and focus in on investment properties in and around those areas. So whether you're just going to visit the area, more so about investing, you can check out those other videos. I go a little bit deeper in the Portugal and Azores video about some of my hotspots, places I love, little places that are not so popular where tourists don't know about. So I share that list and different places. I share that in that video, and in the description of that video, you can get my list that I give to my guests that come to my rentals. They stay at my rentals and they go to these places that I give them, and they absolutely love it. It's actually something that I just did it for myself, and then I started sharing as a public list to my guests, and they love it because they get to see parts that are not tourist attractions. They get to see little pockets of really unique places that I've discovered, and it's really great. So check out that video. This video is going to be all about Spain, specifically Costa del Sol. I'll give you a little history about the first time I went to Spain was about 8 years ago. I took my wife and I and my family. We did this trip, this Go in Euro tour, okay? And listen, at the time I only had 2 kids, and I had 2 kids, and I decided to take like 6 months and just travel all over Europe. Now, look, guys, I've been out of Europe my whole life, all over Europe. But this one was very unique. I remember we landed in Milan, right up here. You can see some of my hearts. I need to get better at marking my territories with hearts. I'm not really good at this all the time. Sometimes I forget or don't do it. But just recently I said, you know what? I need to get more active on Google Maps and just mark the spots that I really like, check in, and then I build my map. So I need to be more diligent with that. So we started in, this was 8 years ago, I think. We landed in Milan, and basically with Google Maps, there was another app Google used to have. I think it was called Google Trips. I think it was called that. But I had Google Maps, Google Trips, and Google Flights, and that's it. And we would walk, trains, Ubers, some flights, and I think a bus or 2 throughout Europe. And we did this for about 6 months. And we went to various places all over Europe, but we started in Milan, and then we'd spend like 7 days or 10 days in Milan. I don't remember the exact timeline at this point. It's been a number of years. But we started in Milan, and we worked our way up towards like Como, what's still one of my favorite areas in Italy, and all the way through. Now I've been all over. I've been down in the center. I've never been to Naples, but anyway, my point is I've been into southern Italy. But again, I'm giving you my background of how I touched Spain. So I called it my Go in Euro tour. You can see some of the videos that I have there. Went all over Switzerland, went to Zurich. We were all up in the mountains in Switzerland, just all over, marking these places. I really do. It's like in some places I didn't, in some places I did. Then we went to Geneva, went through Lyon. Where else did we go? I know we went to Belgium. Oh, right, yeah. We went to Madrid. It was the first time I went to Spain, and I fell in love with Madrid because, like I said in the previous videos, I'm a little bit of a city boy. I like my city. I like the energy. I do also like to go off the beaten path and check out some other stuff. And I really liked the vibe and the energy that was in Madrid. And I remember at that time just saying to myself, if I was to live anywhere in Europe that has a booming city, it would be Madrid. And I loved how there was stuff for kids like everywhere. And just the vibe and the energy, the culture, and it still had that European feel, that vibe that I love so much. But we went to Barcelona. And I fell in love with Spain even more. It went to a whole nother level. So I was like, okay, I really like Barcelona. So much so that I went there because my dad, there's the famous, by the way, if you've never been to Barcelona, let me just show you this real quick. The reason why you have to go to Barcelona, well, that's one reason. But the other reason is the Basilica de la Sagrada Familia. It is so beautiful. It's one of my favorites. Whenever I'm in Europe, I like to go into these old cathedrals. I like to climb the belfry. I like to get next to the bells. I like to look out. One of my favorites is in Prague, downtown Prague. I like to get up there. It's one of my hobbies. Like, I really enjoy it. This one really changed my life. It was so impactful. Now, the funny thing is, when I went with my kids, when I went with my family, unfortunately, my kids were too small. You had to be 18 and above to go up the elevators and walk inside. And I said, one day I'm going to get back here and I'm going to go up there and I'm going to see these beautiful sights. And I did eventually. I'll come to that in a second. But while I had my kids, we went inside, around and down, and it was phenomenal. I mean, the lighting, you got to go on a sunny day, by the way. The lighting inside from the stained glass windows, breathtaking, literally breathtaking. Architecture is so stunning. So I went, Barcelona, been all over Barcelona. So I went back 2 times. I've stopped through Barcelona, even as I'm coming back through maybe the United States or through, the UAE or something like that. I'll stop in Barcelona. I love it so much recently. So then my dad was the one that told me I need to go to the Basilica. I went there with my family and I'm like, Dad, you got to get there. You got to go. So I was trying to convince my dad to go, even though he's the one who told me to go. So finally, I got him to go, and I went there and it was me, my mom, and my dad, and it was phenomenal. Again, another great experience in Barcelona. Loved it so much. One of the things I did this time, though, because I told you before this, 8 years ago, I did it a little different. And Google Trips gave me things to do. As you can see in Google Maps, they actually incorporated that into Google Maps. It kind of took the place of it, I think. Yeah, kind of they meshed the 2 apps together. So they changed it up a little bit, which is fine. I'm just really in here now. I wonder if they can do a street view. Let's check this out real quick. It's absolutely stunning. This is from this is old, guys. This photo is from 2017. It looks so much better even now. Yeah, I can't even zoom out for some reason. I don't even know what's going on. But it looks so much better. It's an absolutely stunning building. When I went back with my parents, this time we went up. We went up and into the Basilica, and it was even more stunning. I was even more shocked. You could literally climb up into the belfries, cross over from one tower to another multiple times. It was just amazing. On this trip, I used an app called Get Your Guide. I'll link that app in the description. You can check it out. I highly recommend it. I use it in all the locations I go to now. So, for example, on this recent trip, I didn't go to Barcelona. I went to Costa del Sol. My dad was, telling me about it. It was new to me. I told my dad in the beginning, I said, listen, you don't have to sell me on Spain. I am sold on Spain. I love it, open to checking out new places. So there is an area towards the Rock of Gibraltar, if you've never heard of it before. It's right very close to Morocco. This area down here is called Costa del Sol. Now, listen, there are better videos here that you can look for to learn more about Costa del Sol, the history, and what's up and coming. I just recently came from there with very little information, watched 2 or 3 videos and just got out there. So what I did was I flew from Lisbon. I flew from the island straight to Seville. I had a layover. Yeah, I probably did fly from Lisbon to this place called Seville. Well, little did I know that upon booking all this, I didn't know the transportation and what I could and couldn't do, but I also wanted to see another part and do this trip a little differently. I wanted to see this area. I would have probably done this with a car. Unfortunately, I forgot my driving license. So I was limited and I said, okay, well, how could I do this differently? Instead of flying right into Malaga or Marbella, I decided to fly into Seville. Also, my dad had recommended it to me. There's some transportation. There's like a high-speed train and then a bus and all this other stuff. But I decided to do it a little different. So I flew into Seville and I used an app called Blah Blah Car. Now, I don't recommend this app, to be honest. I really don't. I don't want to ruin it for them. They seem like they're a startup, but it's basically carpooling. I know Uber and Lyft, I think Lyft has it, but I know Uber has a carpooling option. This is a little different, and I wasn't even sure if you could like bring suitcases on this. So my son, and I ended up buying 3 seats because of we had 2 suitcases and 2 backpacks. I bought 3 seats, and ironically, the woman who I was booking the trip with, it ended up being me, my son, her, and her boyfriend, and my suitcases in the boot, right? We took off from Seville. The cool thing is, it's literally just a 2-hour drive. This 2-hour drive turned into a 4-hour drive because of the flexibility. It wasn't like an Uber drive where you're on the clock and, the distance and all that stuff. It's a little different. You pay for the seats in advance, and it's more like freestyle. So we got some pizza for my son. We got some pizza, we got some chicken, and we got in the car and we went with the windows down through Seville. We got to stop at multiple places. I remember my dad was asking me, well, what time are you arriving? I'm like, I don't know, because the way we're gonna go, the boyfriend was actually so interested in taking us around. What he did was, he said, okay, well, let's get down to Gibraltar. So sped down here. We sped through Seville, like from Seville down to Gibraltar. We stopped in Gibraltar. We were there probably like maybe 45 minutes, checking out the sights, got to look around. We stopped at a fuel station. And what I did was, which you don't have to, by the way, I want to make something clear. We stopped for fuel. I paid for the fuel for her car as like a gift, because this boyfriend was saying, hey, we're going to stop here. We're going to take you there. This is not like a taxi or an Uber. This ride is a little different. It's not like it's an Uber or a taxi. Just, go at your own leisure and do what you want. So I decided to fuel up her tank. As you can see, we didn't really spend a whole lot of time, but there was a spot here. We stopped here. I remember, because I looked this up on my Google Maps, it was Castle. We were here for probably out of 15 minutes. And then we went up. Where is it? Okay, then we went right. Okay, so right here is the castle. We went up into these mountains and got a beautiful view of the ocean. And then we ended up coming down. So you can see we started from Gibraltar. Now, went up, stopped at this little castle. We went up in the mountains here. There's some beautiful mountains. And then we came down and arrived at Estepona, which is part of Costa del Sol. So maybe I can click on here and get some good views here. This is a really, really unique place. It's an older city, and it's really unique because they have all these streets that have, you probably could Google this and get some really great photos. The streets have these different color flower pots. So from like one whole section will have blue, another section will have red or orange. It's really nice. That vibe. So you're just literally 2-3 minutes away from the beach. Beautiful beach area, a bunch of play areas for the kids, and artwork everywhere. I didn't go down to the Ferris wheel area, but this down here is, again, some great views. Let's just see if I can pull up some of those here. One of the best parts about this area is probably the most sunshine in the world. I'm not talking about like hotter areas, but for Europe, 320-ish days out of the year, it's sunny. And it's beautiful weather most of the time. Absolutely phenomenal. The beaches are really clean. It's a great vibe. And you're not so far away from the beach, but you're also not far away from that European vibe, that feel that I keep telling you about. And that's not so far away. Activities right by the water. And you also have the marina. You also have the beach area. This goes all the way up though. This goes very far. I spent most of the time in Estepona, but I did not go all along these little areas. The next place I stopped in was Marbella, passed through it. I did do some research. There's some great golfing up in these areas, best in Spain. And there's another one right here, Santa Clara Golf, Marbella. That was another one I heard about. Then continued to go all the way up. There was a great breakfast place. I took a photo of it. I'll put it in the video. But there's a great breakfast place down here in Marbella. It was right on the coast in Marbella. I'll post the video. Then up the coast more, you have Malaga, which is probably one of the biggest, busiest airports I've ever seen. They have over 350 queues. When I saw that, I was like, whoa, this is huge. They have a lot of people that go through this airport. And that was really surprising. I didn't spend a lot of time in the city. It just definitely looks like a really great city. I can't even compare it to, maybe Barcelona or stuff like that. Now, I will say this. I felt like Malaga, though, when I was going through it, was more of a modern city, maybe just like away from Madrid. Very completely different than Barcelona. Barcelona has its own feel and its own vibe in its own way. It's got some deep architecture, and I really like that a lot. Still with that good Spanish vibe. You have 150 kilometers. It's very long. Now, if I was to give you like 3 layers, you have the most expensive area, probably closer to Malaga. As you go down, the prices go down in the area the further you go out. This area is up and coming, and there's a lot of people. So 93 million people visit Spain every year. So if you were a place in Europe where you say, wait, well, where do a lot of tourists go? Italy is one of them. Venice, Rome, anywhere around the Vatican, right, is always a buzzing spot. But there's also still a lot of regulation in those areas. And the weather is a lot different, and the vibe is a lot different too. You can still get the European vibe, you get the Spanish cuisine, and you have the opportunity where you can still live full-time or maybe rent part-time and bring in some extra revenue. This is a really treasure place. After I left, I was there with my son, and we were hanging out by the beach. We hung out at the local arcades and got to go around some of the local neighborhoods in Estepona area, basically. But I left there saying, like, at the end of the day, I'm sold on Spain. You don't have to sell me because I love it so much I could relocate there again. Boom, let's go. Is probably an area maybe most people haven't heard of. Quite a few of my real estate investing buddies who, some of them invest mostly in the US, some of them invest internationally, and they weren't familiar with it. They've heard of Rock of Gibraltar, but they didn't know about Costa del Sol, and maybe they looked at more places. I'll give you, some other places that came up was more in Germany, Warsaw, Poland, some other places that have really been more popular to them, maybe even the Netherlands. This is great because it's got a really, really nice vibe. As you can see with my little markers, I do love Spain and I have no problem getting back out there. If you want, in another video, I can talk more about Portugal, because I know there's a lot of people thinking about relocating to Portugal, living there, maybe having an investment property. If you want a video about that and my perspective and maybe some of the spots that are maybe more lucrative than others, you can just post that in the comments and then I'll get it done. And that's it. That's basically my time. And then we went, in the next video, we flew from Malaga all the way to Qatar and flew back down to Uganda. So if you're wondering, like, Nathan, why didn't you just fly this way and go straight to Uganda? There is not one-way flights into Uganda. It's ironic that you would actually have to fly to Ethiopia. You'd have to have like a 20-hour layover and then get to Uganda, and 2 stops, actually. Sometimes you have to fly to Cairo. It's easier to fly to the UAE and then straight direct flight into Uganda. It's a lot easier to fly this way and this way. Actually, I found a little secret. There's a lot of flight differences compared to Dubai or the Emirates than flying from Qatar using Qatar Airways direct into Uganda. So in the next video, I'm going to share a little bit more about Doha and talk a little bit about the airport, our experience there. Doha Airport is one of the best airports in the world, and I'll share more of that in the next video. But if you have any questions about this in Spain, let me know. Throw it in the comments. See you in the next one.